So a few days ago, we had the first head coach fired of the 2025 season with Brian Callahan from the Tennessee Titans after going 4-19 in his career, 1-5 this season. And I kind of want to talk about some of the other coaches that could potentially be on the hot seat. Now, I'm going to throw in there quickly just Sean McDermott and John Harbaugh because those are the two biggest names, of course, from Ravens and Bills fans that have been really going off this year. And there's been talks about that for years now from fans, but especially this year because of how bad both teams look. Ravens being 1-5, the Bills losing 2 back-to-back games, and that team being shambles as well, both of them with injuries and stuff like that. But we're talking about maybe certainly more realistic coaches that could really get fired at this point here and follow the suit of Brian Callahan this year. And the first one we're talking about is Dolphins Mike McDaniel. I think he's number one on my list for the next coach to be let go. You look at this year, 1-5 has been absolutely brutal. They've had some tough losses, especially for in the injury aspect, notably Tyreek Hill against the New York Jets, which the only one comes against the winless Jets, which we'll get into soon with them. But you look at Mike McDaniel, 29-28 in his 4 years thus far, just one game over 500, 0-2 in the playoffs. There's been multiple collapses with this team. You look at the first years, have an opportunity to get have the division title, blow it at the end. The playoffs has been absolutely brutal, especially in the Chiefs game when they actually had Tua. You could use the excuse for the Bills loss because they had Skylar Thompson and almost beat the Bills at that point, but they go to Kansas City, look absolutely horrible. Last year was a very up and down season. Picked up maybe towards the end of the year, especially when Tua came back from the concussion, but still 8-9 with a record and now 1-5 in this one. Tua has not looked good at all. The team is horrible. Defense is brutal to watch. Offense is just, they're very limited in what they can do there. I think that the league has figured them out for the last couple of years now. They know what they know what they're going to do, and it's a team that just doesn't have a counter. They don't have a pivot that they can go to and change the offense and try and evolve. And it's something that really falls on Mike McDaniel. Whether it's fair or not, he's a head coach. It falls on him. Certainly, I tweeted out a while ago that all these guys should go. Now Tua, I threw on there as well, but unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait a couple more years till 2027 because of the dead cap situation. It's almost 138 million this year, and then just under 100 million next year in 2026. Dead cap for 2027, the potential out is 31.8, which is more than manageable at that point. But certainly right now that Greer and McDaniel should be gone. The Greer has been, and certainly more of Greer because he's just been there so much longer with this franchise. I mean, both these guys have just done a bad job building this team. McDaniel, the last couple of years, has just been bad at really, just want to say, discipline, the culture, winning against tough, good teams, playoff teams. I mean, he has a bad record against playoff teams, and it's just simple. Like we talked about, once it becomes December, January, or if they get in the playoffs, they falter. They do, and there's some losses they lose to, like Tennessee a couple of years ago, where they had it right there, and they blow it against Will Levis in his rookie season, and it's again for Miami fans, enough's enough. But you look at, especially now, like just the controversy with the team dysfunctional. You look at Tua, every time he steps on the podium, just talks about players missing meetings, player meetings and stuff like that, not being held accountable. So you have another aspect of Tua rambles off on. McDaniel just having wonky answers, just very puzzling. Things that he says, I mean, he's always had that, but especially more than ever this year. And I think this is just a guy that is running out of excuses. He's running out of things to say because it's just every single week there's an opportunity for them to win, and they falter. They do. They falter at the end, whatever it may be. If it's Tua throws an interception, miscues, defense is horrible. It's just all across the board. It's a brutal thing to watch for Miami. And again, I think we've seen more than enough time from Mike McDaniel. This was going to the season. Potentially, he's going to be his final year there if things didn't turn around. His prove-it year, and they're 1-5. Again, they're only one coming against the winless Jets. And that's not impressive at all. I mean, you might as well just put him at 0-6 at this point. So, certainly Mike McDaniel is in that discussion that, if I had to pick the next head coach to be fired, that he would certainly be on that list, and rightfully so. Again, Miami fans have been through it all. It's just this is a team that is still waiting for a playoff win 20-plus years at this point. And again, Greer is certainly in that spot. I will attach Greer with Mike McDaniel's name. And both those guys need to be gone. They need to be gone. They need a fresh start at that franchise. And a couple years later, Tua as well. I'm sorry, Tua is just not that guy. I know that was a very tough decision because it's damn if you do, damn if you don't. If you don't give him a contract, you have no one else, or do you plunge, give him the contract, and you worry about just the play and also more importantly the concussions and injuries. And after they gave him that contract, well, we've had concussion problems, injuries, and play this year has just been horrible. He's had brutal interceptions this season, and it's just enough's enough for Miami fans and from their regard. And it's just again, it's a fresh start is needed for Miami. So I have Mike McDaniel next on that list of potential head coaches gone. Now going to what I just said for the Jets, this might be a crazy thing to say because he's only 6 weeks into his head coaching career, but Aaron Glenn. You look at what the Jets have done, they're the only winless team in the National Football League, and they're brutal to watch as well, especially the penalties. They're undisciplined. The problems that they've had in prior years is still continuing. There's questions once again at the quarterback position, I should say. I mean, Fields has had some decent games. His best game was against the Jets week 1, but there's 2 games to get the Bills and then the Broncos this past week where he's been held well under 100 yards. This is 2025 where the ball is being thrown more than ever in the league's history. Has toned down a little bit, of course, because of how defenses have played. But again, it's the fact that you've had 2 games this year under 100 yards. It's unacceptable. It is. And I want to say Fields is horrible throughout the whole season, but he has been brutal in those 2, unplayable in those 2 games. And it just, you look at that, Garrett Wilson is now got injured in that game as well. Seeing news here too about Garrett Wilson not that long ago that he'll miss multiple weeks with a knee injury. Who else do they have besides Garrett Wilson? That's really their only option. You have Taylor, the rookie tight end out of LSU, but it's again you have Breece Hall, of course. But at that point, people are just going to stack the box up because they have no one else that you fear on the outside. There's no one else that you fear, and it's putting this offense in a tough situation to do what they can. And the defense is, again, make some plays, but it's the penalties absolutely kill them. And it just, I don't know what to say. I mean, going to this week 7 against the Carolina Panthers here, I'm just going to read off the stats by at least what they have on here for the score here. Let's start offensively, what they rank. 26th in total yards, 32nd in passing yards, 5th in rushing yards, 25th in points, 31st in third down percentage. Overall, horrible outside of the running game. Absolutely horrible. Offense can do absolutely nothing, really. Defense is up and down for this one. Tied for 16th in total yards, 10th in passing yards, 23rd in rushing yards, 28th in points, 9th in third down percentage. And again, overall, it's just a issue. The problems, the same miscues, the same problems, the same things that Jets fans have been banging their head on, saying what's wrong with this team is still continuing with Aaron Glenn. And I'm not going to sit here and say after 6-7 weeks that he's going to get fired, whether it's fair or not, but we've seen this before too. We've seen this, not a ton, but it has happened in prior years in the NFL where a coach can be one and done and so forth. And I mean, we can get to a point where if this team, dare I say, goes 0-17, maybe going a little too crazy with it, but this team goes 0-17, yes, I think that is certainly a fireable offense. Your first year, you go winless the entire season. Yes, that certainly should be a fireable offense with that one. But if he doesn't, I think he should be given the rest of the year, the off season, and then next year we can have that pressure on him. Where if things don't turn around, that yes, we can have the discussion of okay, it's time to let you go. Like a Brian Callahan who went 4-19, like he went 3-14 his first year, and then 1-5 to start the season. So you can look at that and go, yes, 4-19 as a record, as a head coach, you're not even 2 years in, it's time to move off of you. And for, Aaron Glenn, he's in a tough situation because it's just again, he's going to a dysfunctional organization. Like we know, they hold the longest playoff drought in the NFL right now. Since going all the way back to 2010, the last time they made it there, they've had the same problems, quarterback questions and all these other dysfunctional things. More importantly, the quarterback spot here. And again, you look at that with Fields, that yes, it looks like once again, we need another quarterback. We need something new, whether it's in the draft or whatever they're going to do. This next offseason of Aaron Glenn's still there at this point. But again, I want to throw his name out there because it's just, yes, as the weeks go on and they keep losing, they keep having the same problems over and over again with the penalties, the miscues, and all these things. Yes, Aaron Glenn could potentially be on that chopping block of getting fired for his first season. So, and we saw that with Urban Meyer, recently with him. And one notable name with that. It was just so absolutely horrible of what he was doing that. And there was other, controversies with him as well. I'm not comparing him exactly to Aaron Glenn because of off the issues and speculation with him, or accusation, I should say, with Urban Meyer. But, you saw that and they had to cut ties with him because it was just absolutely horrible what he did. And for Aaron Glenn, it could be potentially the same thing too. If they just look absolutely brutal and they go, we're 10 weeks into the season and they're 0-10, 0-11, 0-12, if it even gets to that point, however bad it can look, that yes, this franchise might look at Aaron Glenn and say, I'm sorry, it's done. We made a mistake getting Glenn. He's not the right guy. We have to go somewhere else. Now, of course, that's going to bring a whole lot of controversy and Jets, people bashing the Jets because of that. But maybe it is the right decision. Who knows at this point? But Aaron Glenn, I want to throw out there, even though it's his first year, only 6 games in, that it could potentially be something. Now, next one is Stefanski for the Browns. This is a guy, 2-time coach of the year. He's been there the longest out of the list thus far that I have. He's 41-49 in his career record with the Browns. And it's saying too, what I said to the Jets, they can't get the quarterback right. This team has not had truly a franchise quarterback unless you want to pin Baker Mayfield as one they had there, if you want to consider him for the Browns' tenure. But if you don't, they've not had a quarterback since coming back to Cleveland in 1999. This is a team that's still looking for a quarterback, still searching. If I had the number correctly, Dylan Gabriel is the 41st quarterback to start for the Browns since 1999. It's absolutely brutal. It is. And we might be getting to the 42nd soon, which Door Sanders, depending on how it goes for Gabriel and how they view him as the year goes on for his playing ability. So we could be at 42nd at one point for this season. But for Stefanski, it's the same thing too. They've had a great defense overall throughout the whole tenure there. There's no issue with that. But it's just been the offense, especially the quarterback position. And I'm not going to put it all on Stefanski for this move. He's a part of it, of course, but not all of it. But still, he does share some blame with it. The biggest moment was the fact that they moved off of Baker Mayfield and got Deshaun Watson. You look at what they gave up to get Deshaun Watson, what they paid him, you could arguably say that is the worst trade in NFL history. You could, if it isn't, it's certainly up there as that. And you look at, especially what makes it worse on top of that too, you look at what Baker Mayfield, at least early on, when it looked like the right decision with Carolina, his stint there. But again, that's another dysfunctional franchise as well. He played better with the Rams, and then once he got a full season with Tampa the next year, and what he's done since then, he's been sensational. He's been elite. At this point, I would pin him as the MVP frontrunner right now. He has played phenomenal. He's an elite quarterback at that point, and you see what he's done the last few years with the Buccaneers and what the Browns have looked the last few years. At the same timeline, it's complete polar opposites at this point. And as the weeks go on, you see how Baker Mayfield plays. The Browns fans are probably sitting there thinking, "Wow, we screwed up. This franchise, this regime screwed up and got rid of the wrong guy." What has Deshaun Watson done? And his fully guaranteed contract, $230 million, nothing. The guy can't stay healthy. He's only averaged exactly 6 games a year. He had a setback this year with his injury, so he's going to miss he's missing, of course, all of this year. We don't know how he's going to look next year. And if I look up at the Watson contract at this point, let me pull up for you guys. Again, it's just absolutely horrible. It is, and they're stuck with him for at least, I think, a couple more years because of how the dead cap is. So you have this year and you have next year. So next year is the final year of Deshaun Watson. And unfortunately, you can't get rid of him because after next year as well. It's $167 million in dead cap this season, $131 million next year, and you have a void for the dead cap. If I'm reading this right from SpecTrack, it's a $50 million dead cap. If I'm reading that right exactly, he does have a void year in 2027. But again, you look at this contract; it's just been it's the worst contract arguably in NFL history. It is truly. So at that point, and what Stefanski has done since then, yes, they had the one great year where they had Joe Flacco coming after their carousel of quarterbacks and shockingly make the playoffs, which got him his second Coach of the Year award. But since then, after like a couple of good years, really, it's just been horrible. It is. I think same thing how I feel about what I said for the Miami Dolphins. GM and head coach have to go. I'm sorry, they have to go. They have not done enough to warrant being there. They should have been fired already at this point. How I feel about, again, the Dolphins per se. And it's just they failed once again, like many other regimes prior, to get the franchise quarterback. Whether they picked the wrong guy, or they have him and they develop him wrong, or you had a Baker Mayfield situation and you let him go for whatever reason. He was hurt his final year, which did help his playing ability, but it just that is I think the turning point right there is you picking Deshaun Watson over Baker Mayfield. Now that's hindsight 2020 if you want to look at that, because of Deshaun Watson wasn't the Deshaun Watson we know at this point like he was back then. He was playing great with Houston, and again, I think it's time for the Browns to go into a different direction. Stefanski, again, he's a two-time coach of the year. He's given you a couple playoff appearances, but enough's enough. I mean, this is a team 1-5. They're not competitive. Once again, after all these years, they're still trying to figure out the quarterback spot. It's time for a new regime to come in and have their say on the next guy for 2026. I think it sets up perfectly for the new regime. Again, you have 2 first-round picks. The cap situation, I would have to look at real quick to see how they look on that side of it. So right now you're in the middle of the pack here. I mean, it's not anything crazy at this point. If I'm trying to find the Browns once again, I just lost them. Oh no, sorry, I have mixed up with Cincinnati. So they're six going into 2026 at this point. If I update it here. Oh no, sorry, it switched back to 2025. So in 2026, you're 23rd in the NFL. You have a little over $17 million in cap space. That, of course, is going to change once we get to that point. But more importantly, just the draft picks. You have 2 first-round picks. Have the new regime come in and have to say what they want to do there and pick their quarterback. And certainly one of the picks is going to be quarterback. The other one, maybe they package up to move up at that point. I mean, they're going to be high as it is at that point. Maybe they move up to potentially the first overall pick if they want and have their guy, or they take the guy with their own pick and then use the Jacksonville pick for a skill position or whatever they want to use there. It's time for someone else to have a say in the next season. So Stefanski is another person that I'm looking at that is time to go there. And the last one is Jonathan Gannon for Arizona. I mean, 14-26. Again, this is another team that is just puzzling. This is a team that is always up and down. They certainly have the capability of being good, but they find ways to falter, per se. But it falls on Kyler Murray in the offense because of just questions with him. But overall, it's just, I think that's another coach where enough's enough with him. He's been there for a few seasons now, and I don't want to say there's any massive improvement with him at all. And once again, Kyler Murray is hurt again, shockingly. You have Jacoby Brissett coming in now and playing. We'll see what happens this upcoming week against the Packers. But you look at the years, 4-13 his first year. Had improvements a lot in 2024, 8-9 at that point. This year, 2-4. And I think there is certainly, is there enough consistency? Is there enough that he's shown to warrant him not being fired? I don't know. I honestly don't know at this point. When I break down the stats for offensive defense is horrible. I know he's a defensive coach, but offense is horrible here. 24th in total yards, 24th in passing, 17th in rushing, 20th in points, 6th in third down percentage. So, I mean, that's the only somewhat bright spot at that point. It's just they are good in the third down percentage, but after that, it's brutal. It's mediocre at best. And defense is, again, kind of hit or miss at this point. 24th in total yards, 20th in passing yards, 13th in rushing yards, 14th in points, 7th in third down percentage. So a couple of decent spots there. Again, especially the points and the third down percentage. But again, it's just overall, I don't think this team is not where it needs to be. You have kind of questions still about Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, not all on him, but certainly is a part of it as well. And again, I think it's another puzzling spot here where it's like, again, does he warrant more? Has he done enough to warrant the rest of the year to give him the benefit of the doubt and see what he can do here? I don't know. I don't want to say this team is absolutely horrible. They're 2-4, and if he can turn around against the Packers and have a big win there, yes, that could certainly boost the confidence and boost how you feel about Gannon at that point, short term wise. But if they fall to the Packers, like I believe they will, and go 2-5, yes, I think you're going backwards again. You're going back towards the 2023 season as opposed to 2024, and that certainly should be a discussion about is it time to move off of him at that point. And again, like I said at the beginning too, Sean McDermott, Harbaugh they could be in discussion potentially, but I don't think there's a really realistic one. Maybe more so Harbaugh because of being 1-5, but still, I don't think those two coaches aren't going anywhere. But like I said, Mike McDaniel, Aaron Glenn, Stefanski, and Jonathan Gannon are four coaches that you should be looking at. There could be other ones you want to throw out there as well. Maybe Dayball, but they've started to really turn around. It looks like with once they inserted Jackson Dart into the lineup, that things are getting better. I mean, not winning all the games, but it's getting better now. So maybe he has gotten a slight pass at this point. But if you want to throw Dayball in that argument, he could certainly be up there. But those are my top four quarterback or coaches right now that could potentially get fired at some point this season.